Welcome to Catholic Ed for All, your weekly insight into topics of special education in Catholic schools. My name is Dr. Raul Escarpio, and I invite you to join me each week as we learn how to be more inclusive in Catholic schools and continue to live out St. John Paul II's message of open wide the doors to Christ. Many thanks go out to RCL Benzinger, who is generously sponsoring this podcast. RCL Benzinger enriches the worldwide Catholic community by providing the most engaging and highest quality resources, programs, and services rooted in the rich and diverse tradition of the Catholic faith. And now, on to our show. On the show today, I am joined by Andrea Chavez-Kopp, an Assistant Director for Educational and Formation Programs for the National Catholic Educational Association, NCEA. Hello, Andrea. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Hi, Raul. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
It's so good to hear your voice, my friend. Can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been with the staff of NCEA since 2015. Prior to that, I was a middle school and high school teacher and a youth and young adult ministry organizer. So a little bit of parish stuff, a little bit of school stuff. I've been teaching for 18 years.
Okay, so what did you teach?
Well, in Catholic education, you wind up teaching a lot of things, but
Yes,
primarily social studies. I did some STEM, science as a co-teacher. I taught English, and then, of course, a lot of youth ministry stuff as well, so some religion mixed in there.
So what do you do at NCEA?
A lot.
It's a Catholic thing too. I get it.
Yes, yeah. The scope just gets bigger. I do mainly teacher professional development, organizing it, presenting myself. I run all of our online PD. So we have webinars that air 3 to 4 times a week that are free to all of our members. I have a big role in the oversight of the selections for the national convention, helping with the rest of the team here at NCEA. Organizing that event and vetting speakers, reading all those proposals that come in. So for those of you who are interested in presenting at an NCEA event, that call for proposals will be opening up in May as we get closer and closer to proposal season. But it encompasses a lot of different things, a lot of committee work, working with our partners in ministry and other Catholic organizations, lots of things.
So speaking of ministry, I know that you also have not a separate ministry, but something that you've added to your repertoire, something called digital discipleship that you like speaking on. Can you tell me a little bit about that, Andrea?
Sure. I wish I could take credit for that term, but it sounds cool, doesn't it? Digital discipleship.
Yes, it does. It does. Yes.
But really what that is taking what we do as catechists, evangelists, and thinking about how we can be transformative in our ministry, not only to young people, but to our teachers in communicating digitally about our faith, learning about our faith, talking about our faith, connecting with our faith community through technology. So it's really the next iteration of what ministry means. So it's exciting. The church is looking at it in a really deliberate way right now, coming out of the synod. The bishops and the Pope have called for looking at evangelization and catechesis through that lens. So it is a growing area of interest, and it's an exciting one to be a part of. It was what I just got to speak about at the LA Congress a few weeks ago, and yeah, it's exciting.
So why is it important?
We know, all the research tells us how many young people are connected to digital devices. There's the constant, sort of screen shaming or media panic about young people losing all their social skills because of screens and technology. But if we continue to just sort of abdicate responsibility for learning and growing ourselves as ministers in that area, then we're sort of just putting our hands up and saying, okay, the secular world wins. We have a responsibility to our young people to be ministering to them where they are, just like Jesus met the disciples on the road to Emmaus. We're called to meet them where they are, and we know where they are. They're on devices.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I was reading something the other day or hearing something that at age 13 is like a critical age, either 12, 13, in which a lot of them basically start losing interest in going to church. So So it's really scary what's going out there. So I really appreciate that you're able to minister in this way to them, or at least get the word out.
Well, I'm trying to spread the word to get all the partners in ministry sort of thinking and growing in those spaces. And our Catholic schools have so much to offer our partners in ministry about methodology and good use of technology and teaching. So it's a natural place for NCEA to be.
No, of course. And speaking of NCEA, for those of us that really don't have that much experience with NCEA, or those of us that are new to the Catholic faith or Catholic schools, what exactly is an NCEA, Andrea?
Well, the National Catholic Educational Association, we are the membership organization for all Catholic schools. So for those who are listening to your show, whether they know it or not, they're probably a member of NCEA. Their school or diocese is probably a member. We provide professional development, leadership development, public policy, advocacy, all sorts of services and support to support and grow Catholic education.
Okay, and I mean, do I put you on the spot and say about how many members do you have right now? I'm not
We
spitballing
have,
here.
yes, so we have about 150,000 members, which encompasses, I think, around 6,300 schools nationwide, serving about 1.9 million students. That's the closest I can get.
That's
Not
pretty.
bad though. Not
That's
bad
pretty
for being
close.
a spot.
I mean, you could have just said a lot, and I would have said, yeah, that's about right. So we have this conference because I'm a part of NCEA, so I can say we. Is that right, Andrea? I can say we.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We have this conference coming up next week in Chicago, and are you taking walk-ups by any chance
Walk-ups, what do you mean?
to register and to attend the conference? If
Oh,
you
yes,
haven't
absolutely.
registered,
Yeah, you can register on site.
all right, you can register on site. So tell me about this conference that's going on like a larger scale. What are some of the not the sessions but the tracks that are going to be happening, and what's the purpose of the conference, Andrea?
Sure. Well, this is actually the largest gathering of Catholic educators in the world annually. So we're going to be in Chicago, which is a great city to be in, and are very thankful to our host diocese and surrounding diocese for all the great support. We are going to have thousands of Catholic educators coming together across all areas of expertise. There are tracks on, teaching and learning, inclusivity, diversity, leadership, technology integration. I mean, there are just all sorts of topics that you can imagine. And of course, there's faith formation in there as well. So we're going to be looking at all of those things and growing together. There are certain areas of specialty. There's going to be an exceptional learner track, which will be of particular interest, I think, to your listeners. There's going to be a focus on early childhood as well. That's sort of a separate conference within a conference, which is a ticketed event. There are going to be lunch and learns. There are social events. It is a very busy, very big, very exciting week for Catholic education.
And speaking of Catholic education, I mean, when we Catholics do something, we do it right. Can I assume that we're starting each day with Mass?
Yes, there will be an opening Mass, a closing Mass. There will be morning prayer. Absolutely, the liturgies are not to be missed.
Amen. What a way to start out the day. So, I mean, I think you said it correctly when you said that, as some of my listeners might be interested in the inclusive communities track. Can we talk about some of the sessions going on, and so they can start jotting down? Oh, wait, we need to plug the NCEA mobile app so they can make sure to write to grab their sessions and be reminded of them. Right, Andrea?
Absolutely. If this is your first NCEA and you've never been and you're like, where do I start? Or even if you come every year, definitely the mobile app, because you can search not only for speakers. Let's say you really want to hear Raul speak, you can search him by name, but you can also search by topics and keywords, by day and time. You can set your calendar. So it's a really nice thing to do kind of ahead of time, get your wish list of all the sessions you'd like to get to and all the things that are interesting. You can friend people within the app so you can keep in touch. And then one thing that is very exciting for attendees is the presenters are asked to upload their materials, so their slide decks, resources into the app. So when you're attending a session, or let's say there's more than one at one time, you can't get to both, you can usually still get the materials.
So let me get this straight. This is kind of like what digital discipleship kind of looks like in a way. Can we say that?
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little about the Inclusive Communities track. And I can start by saying that if you are a fan of inclusive education and that you are a hero of it, or you would like to learn more about your school can do it, then I suggest that you check out the Monday night session with Beth Forker, the Inclusion Summit. And she's been doing that for a few years now. So I encourage you to attend. And if you need more information, you could probably hit her up on Twitter at the Inclusion Chick, which is one of the coolest Twitter handles that I know of.
I know, right?
And then I'm sure she can give you more information. But that's a Monday night thing. What else do you have for inclusive communities?
Well, that Inclusive Communities track is actually sort of made of two components. One is addressing diversity. So there's things about culturally responsive teaching, engaging our Latino families, things like that. And then there is a focus on serving exceptional learners. And, you know, looking at the scope of those presentations this year, preparing for our little talk today, Raul, it's a really diverse and exciting lineup for exceptional learners. You have things at sort of the high diocesan strategic planning level down to specific classroom strategies for dealing with particular learning disabilities.
Fantastic. So they have a choice to go either as a teacher and say, how can I learn to be more inclusive in my classroom, to specific strategies? And we have stuff for leaders as well. Do you have anything there that you said you were talking about at a diocesan level? Anything there that leaders can attend?
Absolutely. There are a couple of panels going on that are talking about student services and programs and what those look like sort of on a large scale implementation, how to assess if they're working, what data points should you be looking at, those type of high level things. There's also national research and studies that are going to be shared, and some sessions about creating systems and protocols to ensure that you have inclusive practice, also with the lens of our Catholicity, because of course inclusion is something we're called to as Catholics and in Catholic education. So those are some of the leadership type focuses. If you're in either a school leadership role or diocesan system leader, those would be of particular interest.
So NCEA not only talks about it, they preach it, and they show you tangible examples of how we can create inclusive communities in our diocese, in our schools. So it's necessary, and I plead, I beg to any administrator or diocesan leader out there that is questioning how this can work. I mean, we remind you, Andrea reminds you, I remind you that we are called to evangelize to everyone. So there is no need to be a little intimidated by it. NCEA is providing resources for you to attend, and to listen to these sessions. So with that being said, Andrea, why is it important to highlight these inclusive communities track at NCEA along with the other ones? But why inclusive communities?
You know, Raul, it's interesting. Depending on, you know, how long you've been teaching and when you were educated, you may or may not have had any formal training or professional development on how to serve students with special needs. So, I mean, even myself, I was educated, you know, many moons ago in the early 90s. And at that point in time, they were still separating children with learning disabilities, you know, from mainstream students. So education itself has changed, and we have a responsibility to grow as professionals to be able to serve all of our learners. So that's kind of one point. It's just that sort of personal commitment to serving our students, but also always being the best educator you can be. And, you know, now our schools are looking at bringing in more and more students with different types of needs. You know, even the laws have changed over time in education and how we are called to serve all of our students and families. So to keep our schools relevant, sustainable, and on mission, we have a responsibility to provide this type of professional development to our members as the NCEA.
Fantastic, fantastic. So let me ask you something. What are you speaking about at NCA? Because I have to plug my guest here.
Oh
And
gosh, too many things. Well, I will be talking about accompanying youth in a digital world. So that will be one, and I'll be co-presenting with a teacher from Florida. We actually wrote a book together about monarch butterfly rescue gardens. Her name is Jennifer Alvis. And this was a grant program by NCEA over the last few years about how to use monarch butterfly rescue gardens as an example of STREAM in the classroom. So we'll be presenting that together. I'll also be doing a luncheon about our religious education assessments, the Information for Growth ACRE IFG assessment, and the new exciting digital components of that, and how that works, and getting some feedback, some table groups to reflect on that. There'll be I'm going to be co-presenting with someone from Cross Catholic Outreach about building bridges between school and parish, which is so needed. So a lot of different things, and that's all I can remember. There's more than that.
oh my. Okay, just remember to take little naps in between the sessions and things.
I'll have to look in the app to figure out where I'm supposed to be at what time. It's a very busy. It's the most exciting week of the year. It's such a busy time.
Yes. It's like Santa afterwards. You probably go to sleep for a couple months afterwards, just
Right.
from a house. So let's give the listeners just an idea. What are you looking forward to in Chicago? What about the city? I have to plug Dr. Riggs' diocese there. You know, we know he's the superintendent. What are you looking forward to in Chicago that about the city?
Well, Chicago, I've been there several times for different conferences, and it's a great walking city. There's so much that's close by, and great photo ops, and of course food and all those sorts of things. So it's great for nightlife. There's a lot right there too that's easy to get to. People are sports fans. I'm told that there are going to be games happening, but I'm not going to try to sound like I know about sports by explaining what teams or what sports are even in season at this time. So just Google sports and you'll find something exciting.
Well, yeah. Well, the Cubs aren't playing. That's the baseball team. I checked. So, but I'm looking forward to deep dish. I'm a deep dish pizza person. Not everybody is, but that's what Chicago's known for. You know, when in Rome, you got to do what the Romans do. So with that being said, I always ask my guests, what should Catholic special education look like, Andrea? Since we've been talking so much about the inclusive communities and NCA's role in it.
Well, you know, it's funny, we started talking about a different subject in digital discipleship at the beginning of this, but the core element of that is the same, is meeting people where they are. Everybody is different as a Catholic, as a Christian, as a learner, and we need to serve them where they are. So, I mean, that's kind of the crux of everything that we do, inclusive education, being part of that. So learning what our students need, how to support their families, how to welcome them into our communities. And we know how to differentiate instruction. So how do we differentiate ministry? I think that's a really big message underlying all of these things.
Absolutely. So with that being said, Andrea, I thank you so much for joining you. I wish you nothing but prayers and blessings as you continue your digital discipleship and your role at NCEA.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you next week so we can, I will be able to see you at some point, hopefully running from one session to the other, trying to catch your breath.
Right. Or if you're going to come to Tweet Up, that's another. There'll be a social media hub this year,
right,
which will have little mini sessions going on the whole time. So if you kind of need a place to sit and charge your phone and get little snippets of cool technology and social media tips, that's the place to kind of hang out in between sessions.
Absolutely. And at this point, I'd like to ask my audience to please pray for Andrea and everybody else at NCEA, because it sounds like they got a full plate for us. So I encourage everyone, if they haven't registered, to just register and meet us there next week in Chicago, and as we join everyone else for the NCEA conference. Andrea, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Raul. God bless.
Well, that's it for this week. If this podcast was a blessing to you, can you please head over to iTunes and subscribe and give us a review or a rating? It really does help other Catholic educators find the podcast and use it as a resource. Thanks again to the amazing people at RCL Benziger for generously sponsoring this podcast. Check out their new resource for Catholic schools, Blessed Are We, Faith in Action, which enables teachers to share the love of Christ with children who have special needs. Visit rclbenziger.com to learn more. Join me again next time as we continue to advance God's kingdom by including all of God's children in Catholic schools and faith formation. Until then, this is Dr. Raul Escarpio. Thanks for listening, and may God bless your day.